July 1956. Alexandria is burning with heat and energy. Gamal Abdel Nasser is about to pull the tail of the British lion. He stands before thousands and says a name. De Lesseps. That was the code. While he spoke, Egyptian engineers were already seizing the Suez Canal offices. The most important waterway on Earth just changed hands without a single shot being fired. Why did he do it? Nasser needed a dam. The Aswan High Dam was his dream for a modern Egypt, but the West pulled the funding. Nasser realized that if he controlled the canal, he controlled the tolls. He wasn't just taking back Egyptian land. He was taking the money the British and French had been pocketing for 80 years. The gold mine was finally returning to its owners. In London, Anthony Eden was losing his mind. To him, Nasser wasn't a leader. He was a new Hitler who had to be destroyed. Eden was a man of the old world, a man who believed the British Empire still ruled the waves. He didn't care about diplomacy. He wanted Nasser's head on a plate, and he was willing to burn the Middle East to get it. October 1956, a secret villa in France. This is where the Tripartite Aggression was born. Britain, France, and Israel signed the Protocol of Sèvres, a plot so dirty it stayed secret for decades. The plan: Israel would attack Egypt first. Britain and France would then pretend to be peacemakers, move in to stop the war, and accidentally stay in the canal forever. October 29th. The Sinai is a furnace of steel. Israeli paratroopers drop into the Mitla Pass. Moshe Dayan's armored columns surge toward the canal, to the world. It looked like another Arab-Israeli war. But the Egyptian generals knew something was wrong. This wasn't a skirmish. It was the start of a coordinated trap. Reichu. London, Paris se joint ultimatum de date and Israel withdraw 10 miles from the canal. It was a farce. Israel was still 30 miles away, while the demand forced Egypt to abandon its own defensive positions. Nasser saw through the lie instantly. He rejected the order. The trap was sprung. The peacemakers started dropping bombs. Operation Musketeer was unleashed. British and French jets hammered Egyptian airfields, destroying the new Soviet-made MiGs before they could even take off. They wanted total control of the skies. For the people of Port Said, the nightmare was about to move from the air to the ground. November 5th. The citizens of Port Said look up and see the sky turn white. Thousands of British and French paratroopers are descending. This was the birth of modern air assault using helicopters and elite paratroops to seize a city. The invaders thought they'd be welcomed as liberators from Nasser. They couldn't have been more wrong. Nasser didn't just fight with soldiers. He gave the people rifles. In the popular resistance of Port Said, teenagers, students, and workers turned every window into a sniper nest. The British and French were trapped in an urban nightmare. They took the bridges, but they couldn't take the soul of the city. The prestige invasion was turning into a bloody street brawl. If Egypt couldn't control the canal, nobody would. Nasser ordered the ultimate sabotage. He scuttled 40 ships in the waterway, filling them with concrete and explosives. The jugular vein of the British Empire was now a graveyard of steel. The very thing the West went to war to protect was now useless. The battle on the ground was won, but the war for the canal was already lost. While the British and French were fighting in the streets of Port Said, their biggest ally was preparing to stab them in the back. US President Dwight D. Eisenhower was furious. He hadn't been told about the invasion, and he was terrified it would drive the entire Middle East into the arms of the Soviet Union. The special relationship was about to face a cold, hard reality. Eisenhower didn't send tanks. He sent a bank statement. The US started selling off British pounds, causing the currency to collapse. He told London, "Withdraw from Egypt, or we will bankrupt." For the first time in history, the British Empire realized it was no longer a superpower. The US was the new boss, and they wanted the war stopped now. The Americans weren't the only ones watching. In Moscow, Nikita Khrushchev saw an opportunity. He issued a terrifying ultimatum. If Britain and France didn't stop, the Sovjetstronlandanan. Paris, the world was standing on the jagged edge of World War III. The United Nations was in chaos. For the first time, the US and the Soviets actually agreed on something. The invasion had to end. This moment gave birth to the UN peacekeepers. Blue helmets were sent to the Sinai to separate the armies. It was a new world order, and the old colonial powers were being shown the exit door. November 7th. Only 9 days after it began, the fighting stopped. Britain and France agreed to a ceasefire. They had won almost every tactical battle, but they had lost the war. They were forced to withdraw in humiliation. Leaving the Kanahan destroy Gamal Abdel Nasser. Nasser emerged from the rubble of Port Said as a titan. He hadn't defeated the invaders with his army, but with his defiance. Across the Arab world, he was now a living legend. He had stood up to 3 world powers and survived. Egypt was no longer a puppet of the West. It was the leader of a new, independent movement. The political fallout was brutal. In London, Anthony Eden's career was in ruins. He resigned in disgrace just months later. The Suez Crisis proved that Britain could no longer act without American permission. It was the final dying breath of the British Empire. The lion had been tamed. With the invaders gone, the work began to clear the graveyard. It took months to lift the 40 sunken ships from the mud. When the canal finally reopened in 1957, it was under total Egyptian management. The tolls were now funding the Aswan Dam, and the gold mine was finally fueling Egypt's future. The Suez Crisis changed everything. It accelerated the end of colonialism across Africa and Asia. It showed the world that the era of empires was over. On the era of national sovereignty, for Egypt, 1956 wasn't just a war. It was the second birth of the nation. History is written by the victors, but it's understood by those who study the mechanics of power. Nasser played a dangerous game and won. Britain played an old game and lost. Subscribe to Dustofmedia as we continue to tear down the legends and find the truth in the sand.